Hey everybody, welcome to a special holiday Thanksgiving edition of Pick Dr. Osborne's Brain. We're going to be talking tonight about how to navigate the holidays, that special time of the year where we all get together and join with our families, right? And embark upon for many of you, a very happy time, for some of you, a very miserable time, and maybe a little bit of both, actually, depending on the kind of families that you have. But a good time nonetheless. But I want to talk a little bit about keeping it real over the holiday season. This is a time when a lot of people falter. I see year after year, I see a lot of the people that come to see me in my practice end up in the hospital, right? Through dietary deviations, through major deviations that they shouldn't have made. All over the realm of food choice, right? So we're going to dive in deep about what you can do, and I'm going to offer up a lot of different recipes too at the end. So stick with me to the end. We've got about 7 or 8 really awesome Thanksgiving recipes to share with you, and we'll roll those into the feed so that you can tap into those, for this Thanksgiving. But I want to start with just a little bit of a concept. We talk about the gluten-free warrior. That's my calling card, if you will, the gluten-free warrior. And I want you to understand, a lot of people don't really know what that means. They just think this guy, he's got a brash attitude and he's kind of a warrior-like, and he's got a warrior and a shield behind him a lot of times in his video. But what does it really mean to be a gluten-free warrior? And so I think it's important to understand that as we come into the holiday season, because at the end of the day, here's what we know. There's an expression of love during holiday time. I think we can all agree upon that. And the expression of love in our modern society is done for most people through food. So, if you think mathematically, love equals food. And so what happens is around the holiday times, if you don't have a warrior mindset, if you don't have the warrior capacity to protect yourself, to protect your family from the potential for dangerous food, creeping in and destroying your health, then you allow that love equals food equation to not really be love. It's like pseudo love, because when people make you things that taste good that actually poison you, that's not love. That's what we see as society. That's what we see in our society. But this is where you've got to really keep it real as you move in. So when I talk about gluten-free warriors, we fight a lot of battles. Some battles are better left for another day, and some battles you have to pick up. You have to pick up your armor and your weapon every single time. And diet is one of those battles, if you're gluten sensitive, that you have to fight. And the reason why is 20 parts per million. That's the size of a breadcrumb, can cause inflammation for up to 2 months, and for many of you can actually put you in the hospital. For many of you maybe it won't put you in the hospital, maybe make you very sick for a number of weeks. And you have to ask yourself, is it worth it? Is the mentality of letting my food guard down, is that mentality worth it over the holiday season? Because I get it. You get around family, people start drinking, tongues start loosening up. Love equals food. Your grandma's got makes your favorite cookie recipe, or whatever that might be. Like whatever you grew up with in your social paradigm. Trust me, I grew up with something very, very similar. I mean, we used to suckle off of ice cream as we're going out of style. That's what I grew up with. I grew up with baked goods and donuts and kolaches and cakes. My family's German, so to a large extent, we did a lot of grain as I was growing up. But I also suffered as I was growing up from, I would say it was childhood obesity. I was extremely overweight until I discovered sports. So, again, that warrior mentality is important to keep during the holiday season. Not that you want to combat your relatives. That's not what I'm saying. We're not trying to create a warrior stoicism where we fight everyone about food. So tonight, I hope what you walk away with is some ideas on how you can embrace love without having to necessarily share poison. I think it's important that we change this paradigm, because we're also not doing our children any favors when we raise them on love equals food, where food is actually poison. We're creating habits and hobbies for them that will jeopardize their future. And if we look around, just look around. If you're from the U.S., 1 in 7 has autoimmune disease. 1 million people die every year from cancer. 1 million people die every year from heart attacks. 250,000 people die every year from stroke. The death rates from diabetes, obesity, comorbidities are sky high, and these are all diet-related illnesses. And when are we going to, as a society, take responsibility for the choices that we've made? When are we going to take responsibility for changing this paradigm and creating a sane paradigm around the holiday season where we can actually share food as love, as opposing to sharing pseudo food with chemicals in it and calling it love? I mean, how long are we going to actually allow ourselves to do that? So I hope that gives you better clarity. When I say gluten-free warrior, I mean you have to be a warrior around your food choices, around what you allow into your inner circle as far as what we deem to call food. So let's dive into navigating this Thanksgiving holiday. So number one is try to stay strong, right? Staying strong doesn't mean telling everybody no. It just means telling people no as it relates to what you're going to choose to put in your body, and not allowing that peer pressure that, grandma, grandpa, relatives. One bite won't hurt. Like, all that mentality doesn't really get you very far. It gets you in a lot of pain, and it gets you in a lot of trouble. So staying strong in that regard. And one of the things that I highly encourage you to do, especially if you're not hosting the dinner, is don't show up at somebody's house. Like, the worst thing that you can do is show up at somebody's house and turn your nose up at all the food that they just spent hours and hours and hours preparing. So this is when you stay strong. It's not show up at their house and be a jerk. It's call ahead. It's be thoughtful in your process of how you're going to stay strong. Plan ahead. Don't just show up and say, I can't eat your food, so I brought my own and I'm going to go sit over here in the corner, because then you feel socially ostracized, isolated, and your family members look at you like you're Greek, like you're foreign. So call ahead of time and let them know, look, I have dietary restrictions. And the way I put it is, I don't tell them, hey, I want you to make everything for me dairy, gluten, and sugar-free. What I say is, I have dietary restrictions, and there's no way that I'm going to hold you responsible for trying to produce and modify everything around me. So I'm gonna bring some of my own dishes. I hope that's okay with you, but I just don't, it's impossible for you to cater to all of my special dietary needs. So just understand that when I show up, if you're preparing, for me and for members of my family, like, prepare less. So, like, don't spend the money buying a bunch of food and trying to prepare things for us that we might not eat. I just don't want you to feel like I'm trying to be rude or trying to offset you in your own home. So call ahead and give them a heads up. Don't just show up, right? And bring some of your own things. And we'll talk about some things that you can bring tonight. I'm going to give you some recipes. So staying strong, again, it doesn't mean showing up and being an a-hole. It means calling ahead, planning ahead, right? Talking to people in your family. I like to put words in people's mouths, because sometimes with family members it's just easier. So kind of the way I view that conversation is, hey, hey, Grandma, I know you're hosting Thanksgiving this year. I'm coming. I can't wait to see you. Hey, but here's something I need you to understand. Like, I've got a lot of different dietary restrictions. I'm battling with some things with my health, and I don't expect that you're going to want to have to navigate or cater to me in the way that I need to be catered to. And so I just don't want you to take offense when I show up with some of my own dishes and eat some things because of my special diet. And I want to just say thank you in advance. This is where you're putting words in their mouth. You say, I want to say thank you in advance for understanding my special needs. And so when I get there, I just appreciate that my diet is not the topic of conversation. And I know you love me, and I know that you care about my health and you want what's best for me. So that's why I'm just thanking you in advance for your understanding. Like, that's the conversation, the honest conversation that you should be having if you know you're going into the proverbial dragon's den of people trying to feed you everything that was ever made or ever created in the kitchen, right? So, like, protect yourself in that way, in a kind and loving way, and have those early conversations so that you don't get there and offend somebody after they've worked hours in the kitchen to take care of you. Now, one of the attitudes that I like to take is what you see right here: start your New Year's resolution now. This is that we're embarking on a time, and at least in the U.S. and probably in most industrialized countries, where Thanksgiving starts the never-ending plethora of parties, right? So we have this weekend that's coming up. So this is a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then right after that, guess what starts? All the Christmas parties. So the Christmas party at work, the Christmas party at your spouse's work, the Christmas parties at your children's school, the Christmas party that your neighbor's going to throw, right? So we come into this season of parties and festive eating and drinking. And so, most people walk out of this 2 months, and they're walking out of this 2 months and they're going to be right here, an extra 15 pounds or more of weight, because they're going to overdrink, they're going to overeat, they're going to over-imbibe, because everybody's going to throw something and you're going to feel constantly obligated to eat. So, keep it real is in part. So think about starting your New Year's resolution early. I don't like New Year's resolutions because it basically implies that you have permission to destroy your health for 2 more months until January 1, when everybody decides they're going to turn it around. Like, start it now. Don't give yourself permission to just basically self-deprecate. Like, take care of yourself through this time. Now, if you eat a little bit more calories than what you might typically do, if you imbibe in some spirits or have some drinks, alcoholic beverages, things of that nature, I'm no one to judge you, nor would I want you to think that, but you've got to keep it reasonable. And a lot of this is where people go off on that deep end, because there's always an excuse. There's going to be the next 6 weeks are going to be straight holiday time, and that's where people get in trouble. So if this is helpful for you at all, think about starting your New Year's resolution now, where you come into the holiday season and instead of knowing you're going to just pound every drink in front of you, pound every meal, cookie, cake, or baked good in front of you, and if you're gluten-free, you shouldn't be doing that anyway, but it still can be challenging if you're making even gluten-free goodies. But think about this as going into it in a reasonable way, and get your mind right. Set yourself up for success. One of the things that I like to do with family members, as I've mentioned before, is sharing your health goals. And maybe you don't have health goals. Maybe sharing your recovery goals. So like, you could replace this word health with any word that you would like, but your recovery goals. Maybe your health isn't so great. Or maybe it's your diet needs, right? So you could put in the phrase that matches where you're at in the process of your no grain, no pain type lifestyle. But share those things with your loved ones in a loving, kind way, with patience, in virtue, so that they support you. Again, put words in their mouth, help them understand your need, because they'll support you better. And if you make the declaration ahead of time, what generally happens if you don't is, you walk in and Grandpa says, "You want a drink?" Right? And Grandma says, "You want a cookie?" Right? And your uncle says, "One bite won't hurt," right? I mean, just imagine all those conversations so this is the pressure, right? That social pressure coming from family members. If you don't do this I can guarantee you is coming. This is probably coming even if you do this. And so what happens if you have these conversations ahead of time, you just remind them of the conversation as opposed to just caving. Because again, a lot of people are going to cave. It happens every year. I see it every year after the Thanksgiving and Christmas. My office is inundated with people that it's almost like a confessional. They're coming into my office and saying, "Hey, Dr. Osborne, I really messed up over the holidays. I did this, I did that, I ate this when I shouldn't have eaten that, I drank too much," whatever it is. So again, set yourself up as much as you can. I can promise you most of you are going to eat and drink things that you wouldn't normally eat or drink. But if you can minimize the damage at the very least by planning ahead, you'll save yourself a lot of grief. One of my favorite things to do during the holidays is right here, is to offer to be the host. And why do I like to offer to be the host? I actually love to be the host, and here's why. When I'm the host, I get to control the menu. People can bring dishes all they want, and I'm always welcoming people to bring their own traditional dishes if that's what they want to bring. But when I'm the host, we can prepare food. We can prepare food that is actually love, right? Loving food that's made, organic food, healthy food, real food, without the margarine, without all the junk, without all the sugar, without all the processed ingredients. Again, not fruit. We're not creating love equals fruit. We're creating love equals food. And when you're the host, you get to choose the menu. You get to dictate what's in it, and you get to keep yourself safe and real during this time. Whereas when you're not, you're a little bit more out of control, especially if you're traveling from one state to another. You're flying somewhere. It's a little bit harder to control your food. So again, when you can be the host, take every advantage of that opportunity if you're on a restricted gluten-free diet to be the host that you possibly can. Because here's one of the things that I see kind of chronically is that people hear that you're gluten-free and they want to help you. Like they want to buy you a gluten-free thing or they want to make you a gluten-free thing. As a matter of fact, raise your hand, those of you in the audience, where you've gone to a family member's house, and they were like, oh, you know what, I made you gluten-free cookies, right? Or I made you gluten-free pie crust so you can eat it, right? And what they didn't realize is that they used the traditional term for gluten. They made you corn or rice or sorghum or millet-based breading or whatever it might be, knowing that they thought that was gluten-free when actually it wasn't gluten-free. So they thought they were doing really right by you, but they were doing wrong by you, because most people, when they do the gluten-free diet, do it wrong. Remember, 92% of all people embarking on a gluten-free diet continue to have persistent inflammation and villous atrophy despite the fact that they're on a gluten-free diet. It's because they continue to eat other grains like corn and rice. And so when your family members are trying to navigate this for you because they know you have a special need and they go to the grocery store, they don't know anything about the diet. So what do they trust? They trust the food labels. So they go to the gluten-free food aisle and they buy all that junk, processed, sugary, garbage food that has corn and rice in it, genetically modified corn and rice. It's loaded with glyphosate, and they make something from it for you, as an act of love. And it is an act of love, but it's also if you imbibe with it, if you partake of it, you can end up hurting yourself and creating a problem. So again, when you can be the host, that's important that you take advantage of that situation. When you're not the host, my advice is have those early conversations, call up your family members, let them know what your needs are, let them know not to be offended or not to be upset with you if you can't eat certain things, certain traditional types of recipes that are common, and ask them to kindly not, use your diet as the centerpiece for everyone else's conversation. You'd prefer that wasn't the issue. And if somebody wants to ask you about it, it's one thing, but you don't want the announcement at the dinner table to be, well, we made this one special for you because you're weird, right? Like that's the way it comes across to us. People like us, but the way they just think they're trying to be helpful, and we'd like them to try to be helpful, but accuracy matters in this case. So host it when you can, and if you can't host it, make sure I would make sure to have and make sure you've bottled up plenty of this right here. Couple different things that I take with me if I travel. One is Gluten Shield. This is a digestive enzyme that, in case there's a cross-contamination issue. Now, don't use this to purposefully eat gluten. It's like, don't take this and then pig out on cookies. It's not what it's intended to do. It's not going to block all that damage. But if you get accidental cross-contamination or exposure, it can minimize and break down some of those glutens that you might get exposure to. So take that when you travel. The other thing I take commonly is vitamin C, Detox C, because vitamin C can help with that inflammatory component in the GI tract. After a person's gluten, vitamin C can be very supportive of gut repair. So these are things that I would carry, along with my probiotic. Biotic Defense is another one I would carry. Actually, I just talked to somebody last week who was at a they kind of celebrated the whole thing early, and they were at a family member's, and they really derailed themselves. They ate everything that they shouldn't eat. And for this particular individual, it just created a scenario of severe diarrhea for weeks. And that's where sometimes a good probiotic, if you got cross-contamination or minimal exposure like that, can help keep your bowels stable and prevent them from becoming a major issue. So again, if you have to travel, it's good that travel with nutritional companions so that you can minimize or mitigate as much of that damage as possible. The big one, probably one of the biggest mistakes I see during this time, is the overabundance of dairy. A lot of people do really good at cutting grain or gluten out of the diet, but then they get exposure to a lot of dairy. And so remember, one of the things that we know about people with gluten sensitivity is that gluten damages the intestinal lining where the enzyme that breaks down or degrades dairy is produced. And this is why lactose intolerance is very common in people with gluten sensitivity. And so that can create a lot of issues for you, especially during this time, because a lot of people think, okay, grain, okay, I can figure that part out, but then they forget about butter and they forget about cream and all the other things that, you know, are thrown into baked goods. So if you struggle with those issues, make sure, again, that you're very cautious and very careful. Okay, let's take a quick break, and when we come back, I'm going to share a lot of different recipes with you guys and hopefully give you some things tangibly that you can do this Thanksgiving that might make it easier. So we'll be right back. One of our flagship products, Gluten Shield, was designed to support people on their gluten-free journey. It's especially beneficial for those just learning about their gluten sensitivity. There's an average 12-week learning curve in that. It was designed to protect from accidental gluten exposure and cross-contamination, as well as to support and protect you during travel or eating out. It was not designed to help you eat more gluten. That's a key. Now, Gluten Shield key ingredients include proteolytic enzymes and something called DPP4. Now, this enzyme has been shown to break down the proline and glutamine bonds in gluten proteins. It also contains a proteolytic enzyme blend designed to help you break down proteins. Remember, years of gluten-induced intestinal and stomach damage can sometimes inhibit that process. It contains carbohydrate-busting enzymes that support the digestion of the starchy components of grains. And it contains a very specialized probiotic called Bifidobacterium infantis. Bifidobacterium infantis is a specialized probiotic strain that has been shown in research studies to aid in the breakdown of difficult to digest carbohydrate elements found in grains. It's also been shown with celiacs to reduce intestinal symptoms. It also helps support overall digestion. Now, Gluten Shield also contains an herbal blend for additional digestive support. It contains fennel, which aids in digestion and supports relaxation of the smooth muscle lining the GI tract. It contains ginger, traditionally used for nausea and upset stomach. It's also believed to promote digestion by increasing the flow of saliva, gastric juices, and bile. It also contains peppermint, used to support digestion and to provide relief from GI discomfort. Now, recommended use for Gluten Shield, if you're taking it for daily maintenance, just take 1 capsule with each meal or snack for supporting digestion and daily gluten protection. For enhanced performance, take 2 capsules with each meal or snack for travel or eating out. Now, if you want it for aggressive use, take 3 capsules with each meal or snack. This is best for gluten-free newbies, those who are new to the gluten-free diet and not quite sure whether they're avoiding all of the gluten in their environment. Hey, welcome back, everybody. So let's dive in. We're gonna talk about some recipes that hopefully you guys can walk away from, where you can maybe use some things that we've already put together. We've got a professional chef that we have put these things together. So from our kitchen to yours, hopefully that'll be helpful. Before we dive into those, I do want to talk about one other component that occurs over this time frame, and that's less to do with gluten and more to do with excessive carb intake. This is something that's common during this time frame is the excessive quantities of carbs, the potatoes, even some of the grain-free bread options that contain heavy amounts of cassava, heavy amounts of tapioca. Look, I'm not saying you can't have these or that you shouldn't try to use these to bake with. I'm just saying be very careful. One of the things that we see every year after the holiday season is the excessive quantity of carbohydrates, including alcohol and sugars, leads to yeast overgrowth in people who imbibe to such a great degree. So they're coming in, they've got major yeast overgrowth, and that, remember, yeast proteins, there's proteins inside of yeast or that yeast produce. They're called hyphal wall proteins that can mimic gluten. So a yeast overgrowth in somebody with gluten sensitivity can create a lot of reactions and create a lot of problems. So just be aware, you can overdo the carbohydrates. It's one of the reasons why myself personally, I try to pick a couple of days during Thanksgiving where I know I'm going to eat more than what I would typically eat. I know I'm probably going to eat more carbs than what I might typically eat, but those are the 2 days that I give myself, and outside of that, I try to get right back, snap right back to kind of a regular day. And just, family's still there, so you can spend time with family, but it doesn't have to be a celebratory self-termination with food, right? So again, just want to make you aware that increased carbohydrate intake can become a major problem if you don't kind of keep it in check. So let's throw up some recipes here. These are some of our favorites, really. So, and I'm going to post these links for you down in the feed. So one of them is our pumpkin pie, and we have a couple of different options with this one. You can use our warrior bread. We have a pie crust recipe with that, or you could make this without any crust at all. We actually have done it both ways in my household, but if you like pumpkin pie, this is a classic for Thanksgiving. I want to share our recipe with you. We're going to pump that into the feed for you. Another one of the classic favorites is just fresh homemade apple pie, and so we've got a really, really good recipe for that one as well. And hopefully if we'll put that link up for you as well. Hopefully if you have this at Thanksgiving, it'll get you, again, this is your grain-free. Every one of these recipes are grain-free. Every one of these recipes are sugar-free, and they're also dairy-free. So if you're following kind of a more restricted diet than just a grain-free diet, they're going to fit your needs. Then we have the lemon bar recipe up here on the top right that we'll also put in that feed for you. These are absolutely fabulous. You're using fresh lemon zest to make those. So again, some of our holiday favorites. Now, one of the things that I used to miss a lot at Thanksgiving was a dinner roll. And so we had our chef put together dinner rolls that actually are softer and chewier, and they don't taste like bricks. A lot of your gluten-free rolls, a lot of your gluten-free bread products are horrific and terrible. We've got a fantastic dinner roll recipe for you. This is a good one to take. Like, it's easy to bake, easy to take with you. They stay fresh for several days, so you can get good use. They don't just, they keep for several days, is my point. And then we got deviled eggs, another one you can take with you. And these are dairy-free deviled eggs. We actually have an avocado dip that we're using in them. So if you're following a ketogenic diet as well, they match that perfectly well. So high protein, high fat on these grain-free deviled eggs as an option. And so again, we'll put that up for you. And then we also have pumpkin spice muffins. So again, if you like a nice dessert, a nice pumpkin flavor, these are designed to fit that taste bud for you. And then our last one here is a breadcrumb. That was one of the big kind of requests that we got, was how do you make breadcrumbs, like for stuffing, turkey stuffing, if you're going to do some of your own stuffing, breadcrumbs like croutons for salads and other recipes. So we've got a recipe for you for a grain-free breadcrumb, tastes delicious. So those are the ones that we're going to put up in the feed and share with you. And then we're going to dive in and get a lot of these questions answered. So again, I hope you guys, if you use these, I hope you really, truly enjoy them. And I hope that you can share real food with your family this holiday season without the food slaughter. The first person, so we're going to have a little contest too, because I want to give away, we're going to give away one of our Warrior shirts, right? So Gluten-Free Warrior, as we said, from the Gluten-Free Society. We're going to give away a shirt to a lucky winner tonight. We're going to ask a question here. What does OPF stand for? OPF. And we're going to, not whoever gets it right first, we're going to pick a winner, but we want to throw that question out there and see how many people answer, and we're going to pick a lucky winner to win one of our Gluten-Free Warrior t-shirts. So if you know what OPF stands for as it relates to our internal language here at Gluten-Free Society and drpeterosborne.com, just pump that into your feed, type that answer in, and you might win one of our t-shirts today. So, okay, let's see here. Question coming in: can vitamin B12 deficiency cause burning feet? It absolutely can. Chantel, it's one of the side effects of B12 deficiency is something called a neuropathy. Although burning feet neuropathy is more associated less with B12 and more actually with vitamin B5 deficiency, also known as pantothenate. So burning feet can be B12 deficiency, could also be folate deficiency, could also be B5 deficiency. In my experience, B5 deficiency is a more common cause of burning feet neuropathy. Question about which of your supplements help to detox or help with mercury after amalgam fillings. I would recommend in that regard Ultra Metal Detox. If we can put that up in the feed for you. Happy Thanksgiving from Amelia. Thank you, Amelia. If I have anemia and heavy cycle with low iron and serum B12 at 399, do I still need to look into other causes of anemia? Maybe. I mean, if you've got low iron, depending if they measured pure iron and your iron in your blood is low, not necessarily your ferritin, but your iron, and look at your hemoglobin, look at your hematocrit, look at your MCV and your MCH and MCHC. That's called a complete blood count. You could have, I mean, 399 B12 is not, it's not astronomically low, but it's also not great. But serum B12 markers are not great measures of B12 status. But there could be other causes of anemia that you have, and everybody's entitled to more than one nutritional deficiency. So although it appears that based on what you've said, you might have an iron deficiency as well as a B12 kind of borderline deficiency there, you may also have other causes of anemia. So it's really a good idea to get with a doctor who understands nutrition. Vitamin E deficiency causes anemia. Vitamin C deficiency can cause it. Copper, vitamin B6. There are a lot of different causes of anemia. So you may have some things that are causing it, but if you didn't get a kind of a full comprehensive evaluation, you may be also missing some things. Let's see here. On a grain-free diet for 5 years, why can't I replete vitamin C, E, and B2? Currently borderline values with intracellular testing. Any clues? Lots of clues. I mean, there's three main reasons, one, why a person can develop a deficiency or maintain a deficiency. One is they're just not eating enough nutrients in the food that they're eating. Like the food they're eating doesn't contain enough of the nutrients you're low in to meet your personal need. And that's unique for everyone. I know that we have these recommended daily allowances and kind of generic numbers that you see on food packaging labels that say this is how much of that nutrient you need daily. But those are not individualized at all, so they don't really hold a whole lot of scientific weight, in my opinion. But another reason why you could be deficient is because there's an underlying situation, whether it be underlying stress, whether it be an underlying condition like an inflammatory issue that you're dealing with still, that's causing your body to need more of those nutrients to kind of offset the stress or the underlying inflammation that you're dealing with. And then a third very common reason that we might see nutritional deficiency is other external forces. I see this a lot in people that exercise aggressively, especially athletes. We'll see low antioxidants quite frequently, low vitamin C, low vitamin E, low vitamin A, and other antioxidants, because exercise causes you to burn through more nutrients, especially aggressive exercise. So, I mean, there are a number of reasons why that could be the case. It's hard for me to just generalize and give you an exact, but hopefully that's helpful and gives you some road to kind of navigate down. I like a lot of the comments here. So let's see, what's the best vitamin to help you sleep and to stay asleep? There are a lot of vitamins that might help with that. I'd say supplementally, the best vitamin in the world to help you sleep and stay asleep is getting sunshine between 9 and 11, 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. because that's when you make solid melatonin. Melatonin puts you to sleep and keeps you asleep. Some people will supplement with melatonin, and you can certainly do that, but getting melatonin is, in my opinion, just as important. It's more important, actually. Let's see, Adrian says, I made my first appointment with you in December. I'm so excited to see if you can help. I can't wait, Adrian. I'm up for any challenge. I love a challenge. As a matter of fact, I thrive on challenges that people bring to me, so welcome aboard. Let's see here, Dennis. Dr. Osborne, is it true that if you're healthy and you eat a meal, it shouldn't affect your energy, i.e. make you tired or give you energy? No, it's not true, Dennis. Great question, by the way, because this is one of the things that happens, especially at Thanksgiving. So you eat a big, heavy meal. What is the byproduct of digesting your food? So this is not common knowledge, but biochemically speaking, especially if you go carbohydrate heavy, one of the byproducts of carbohydrate digestion is CO2, carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide locks up your red blood cells. So you remember your red blood cells, inside of them, they have hemoglobin molecules, and generally speaking, hemoglobin on your red blood cell carries oxygen, but it can also carry CO2. As a matter of fact, your red blood cells have a greater affinity for CO2 than they do for oxygen. So if you eat super heavy carb, high carb at a meal, and you get, through digestion, you get all this excessive CO2, it's got to come out of you. How does it come out of you? It comes out of you because your red blood cell picks it up and delivers it to your lungs so that you can expel it by breathing out. And so it's not uncommon for excessive carbohydrate production as a result, or excessive carbon dioxide production as a result of carbohydrate consumption, to bog down your red blood cells and prevent you from carrying as much oxygen, therefore making you tired after a meal. So that's one element that can happen. Another with Thanksgiving is the tryptophan in the turkey is a sedative. In a sense, it can help. We use tryptophan a lot as an amino acid to help people with anxiety or to help people sleep better. So it's one that you need tryptophan to produce serotonin, and you need serotonin to make melatonin. And again, this is very important for your circadian cycle, your sleep cycle. One other element that you want to understand, though, is when you eat, all the blood in your body will rush to your GI tract. It rushes away from the brain to the GI tract. Why? You're digesting your food. When you're digesting your food, are you supposed to be exercising? Are you supposed to be thinking super deep thoughts? No, you're supposed to be relaxing and resting and digesting your food. That's why some cultures, like down in Mexico, they take a siesta. If you've ever been to Europe, Italy, Spain, Portugal, they have a very slow lunch and a nap after lunch, right? And why? It's because the cultures are smart and they understand and they recognize that after eating, it's okay to feel tired because your blood rushes away from your brain, away from your muscle, into your GI tract to do the work of digestion. So it's very normal to feel tired after a meal. What's not normal is to feel tired all the time, but even more tired after a meal, but you're tired all the time. Like being tired all the time, that's a sign that something deeper is going on. Angeline is asking about nutritional yeast seasoning as a healthy substitute for cheese and B vitamin supplement for the holiday season. Yeah, I mean, if you're doing it during this season, but you're not doing it as a regular, kind of staple food in your diet, using some nutritional yeast can add palatability and flavor to some of your food. So I wouldn't fault you for using that. How do we prevent winter weight gain? I live in Canada. Simple. You eat well, you exercise well, you sleep well, you breathe clean air, you drink clean water, and you mitigate your stress. No different than when it's in the summer. The biggest issue in the winter months in Canada is long and grueling inside. You've got to figure out an exercise plan that you can accomplish inside. And one of the other things that I would encourage you to do if you're not snowbirding down south for some of the time of your winter, is to get yourself a light that puts out about 10,000 illuminations that emulates the sun, because you can get cabin fever in those long winter months, and that can cause seasonal affective disorder. It can deplete you of serotonin. Serotonin depletion can actually cause issues with weight and cravings, etc. So, but those are the simple strategies you can tap into. I like what Melissa has to say. She says, absolutely not worth eating something wrong. Stay strong. I love that. Yes, stay strong. Could iodine and chaste tree berry help with a heavy cycle? Yeah, depending on why you're having a heavy cycle. Again, I see a lot of people that have women that have heavy cycles for a variety of different reasons. Nutritionally, there are a lot of reasons why that could happen, but chaste tree berry is one that can be helpful from Vitex agnus. And then iodine certainly can be. It's necessary for estrogen, progesterone regulation. Margie says, I tried several gluten-free pie crust recipes. They were all horrible. I will risk the gluten and have a delicious pumpkin pie. Good luck with that, Margie. Yeah, good luck with that. You might try our pie crust recipe. I can tell you for a fact our warrior bread is something very special and unique. And if you haven't tried it and you haven't tried making pie crust with it, then you're missing out. Yeah, I can see some of you are allergic to almonds. If you're allergic to almonds, you might try mixing tiger nut with tapioca and cassava. Those can also make some pretty good pie crust as well. Let's see here. Can gluten-free heal pancreas and stomach? It depends. If gluten is causing your pancreatic damage and your stomach damage, then going on a gluten-free diet can certainly contribute to that healing process, Michael. I've seen a number of cases where people had chronic pancreatitis, and even cases of acute pancreatitis is caused by gluten, and so changing the diet led to, kind of a remission of those problems. But I don't think we could ever make that claim generalized across the board for everyone. But, what do you got to lose? Because most of the people that are told they have chronic stomach inflammation or gastritis and pancreatitis, they're saying that most doctors will tell you, well, you have it, but we don't know why. Here's some medicine, right? So what do you got to lose? Change your diet. How do you know if you've eaten something that you didn't know had gluten in it, or if you ate something that maybe just didn't agree with you? A good point. I think first of all, knowing what you're eating and being cautious enough to know that there's no gluten in it is the first step to differentiating between the two. If you're kind of careless around what you're eating, then cross-contamination is going to be a regular component of your diet. Remember, cross-contamination of gluten. One breadcrumb can cause inflammation for 2 months. So step one, in my opinion, is just to get really granular and dialed in that know that you're not eating gluten, and that way you can differentiate whether or not another food or another non-gluten food is contributing to your issue. So Melena says, I've gotten to the point where I absolutely will not eat anything I have not prepared for myself. It's hard, but the extra effort is worth it. So that goes back to my question from earlier about OPF. Do we have any answers on OPF? Okay, so we'll get to that. We're going to pick a winner. A lot of you got it, nailed it. Home run on that one. Let's see here. Yeah, scroll down on both the left and right. Is it true that if you cut an onion and place it in a room where someone is sick, that it absorbs the germs? I know it may sound silly, but I heard this a long time ago and again today. So understand, Robbie, that you're not worried about germs in the way you shouldn't be. You shouldn't be worried about germs. The world is germophobic, and for the wrong reasons. I mean, Louis Pasteur's theory of germ theory of disease is wrong, and we've known that for decades now. So having a fear of germs is the wrong phobia to have. Now, that being said, one should strive for good hygiene. That's very different than having a fear of germs. So, I mean, washing hands is important, as we've all learned in the last 2 years. The only thing that's important, according to our governments, is wash your hands and take your drugs, which is, we all know, is BS. Hopefully, if you've listened to me for any length of time, you know that. But we don't fear germs. If we have good balance, if we have good nutrition, good diet, good exercise, good sleep, good sunshine, then we have good balance. And so we don't fear germs because our body has an immune system that has the capacity to deal with them. We make highly specialized weapons and chemicals against the overgrowth or the overabundance of different types of microorganisms. So what I would encourage you to read more about, Robbie, is something called terrain, the terrain theory of disease versus the germ theory of disease. I think it might help you. You don't need to worry about cutting an onion and leaving it around to absorb the ambient germs in your home. I think that, again, that's an antiquated thought process, and I just want to move you away from that. Where do you recommend to get tested for vitamins? I can't get a doc to send me for that. Jessica, just be patient. I think we're coming up in January. We're going to have that planned out. We've been working on a direct, without a doctor's note, intracellular test for all of you. That's one of my goals in 2022, early 2022, is to introduce that technology to you all so that you can go get it done. So if your doctors won't do it. And John, I would say this too, if you have a doctor that will do it but doesn't understand nutrition, great, more power to you. But where I see a lot of people go wrong with that is they have their doctor do it, and then they take their doctor's advice when the test comes back, but their doctor's not qualified to read the test or understand nutrition or understand what a therapeutic amount of a nutrient looks like or is. So you've still got to be careful. Part of it is getting the test, but the other part of it is where's the information coming from? What do you do as a result of the test coming back? Question on liver. Carolina wants to know, how often should we eat liver per month? I hear it's the best food to eat to get nutrients. You don't have to eat liver a certain quantity of times. I'd say if you like it, eat it on a weekly basis. Put it in your rotation. And get some liver in your diet. How realistic are food serving sizes on packages? They vary greatly from what is served in a restaurant. Oh, Jane, I love that question because, like for example, most packages contain a serving size that's fit for a microscopic dwarf. Meaning it's not realistic for what a human is actually going to eat. You just take that serving size on most packages and you multiply it by 4, and that might actually be what you sat down and ate. So you have to be very careful when you're looking at food labels. If you're trying to look at macronutrients like carbs, fats, proteins, and total calories, because a lot of times you'll overdo it really quickly, not realizing you're overdoing it because they put such a small serving size on a lot of these packages. All right, Mary Ellen says, I ordered your gluten intolerance and sensitivity test. Yay, awesome, Mary, high five. Can't wait for your results to come in, and if they're positive, send you on a great journey toward no grain. What about if you have allergies to peanuts, tree nuts, etc.? What would you recommend? I think that question was in regard to like flour. And so again, flours that I would recommend, I don't know if we could pull this up, Mel, but Solita, maybe we could pull up our gluten-free, grain-free flours article for her. There are a lot of different flours outside of the nut flours that you might be able to use as substitutes for recipes as well. And so we'll share that with you. What could be causing nightly lower leg cramps if a blood magnesium test was normal? Well, depending, Mary Jo, on the blood magnesium test. If it was a blood serum test, then I wouldn't put too much faith in the result. Now, if it was a red blood cell magnesium test, that's a much better and more accurate way to assess magnesium. But a lot of times, nighttime cramping, night leg cramping is oftentimes associated with calcium deficiency. So calcium might be at the core of this. One of the other things that can cause nighttime cramps, if you overconsume caffeine during the day, it's a common trigger of cramps at night. If you're dehydrated, it's a common trigger of nighttime cramps. And so you might, and then also if you're drinking RO water, reverse osmosis water, and you're not adding electrolytes back to it, we'll sometimes see people develop nighttime cramps there. So any of those would be options to explore. So Elizabeth says, I got glutened at a pre-holiday lunch. I took the enzyme. It helped, but I felt the brain fog, exhaustion, mood plummet. Happy I'm detoxed enough to notice, but OMG, don't eat OPF. I agree. Don't eat OPF, which is what? OPF is other people's food. So many of you got that answer right? Other people's food. Not that we don't love other people, not that we don't want to have camaraderie with other people, especially around the holiday time, but other people don't respect their diets well enough. So we don't want to let them have the selection over the most important thing that we can control to contribute to our health, right? So OPF, other people's food. Now, if you come to my house ever, you could probably trust it, but I'm not hosting any kind of mass Thanksgiving parties anytime soon. So let's see here. Make a pie crust from walnuts, cashews, dates, and cinnamon makes the best pie crust. Yeah, that does sound pretty good. Thanks for the tip, Amali. Should we be concerned with antibiotics and hormones in the chicken and turkey? Generally speaking, that practice is banned in chicken and turkey raising. That just because it's banned doesn't mean the farmers are adhering to it, but it's supposed to be. It's one of the reasons why I have my own chickens and my own turkeys, because I have a very strong distrust of the food, medical, media, government complex that is, most intents and purposes feeding us poor food, drugging us with things that don't cure us, giving us messages that are untruthful, and stealing our money through unfair taxation to to promote the companies that poison us and give us drugs to heal us that don't heal us, right? So anyway, crustless pumpkin pie, Mary says, yep, crustless, I think I mentioned that. That's a good one. How much is too much glycine? Depends on whether or not you need glycine. Too much, if you're taking 3 milligrams of glycine, that's actually quite a low amount. It's not very much. Now, if you meant 3,000 milligrams, that would be more of a dose. Is benfotiamine the best form of B1? It's the best fat-soluble form of B1. I mean, thiamine can be water-soluble too. There are different forms of B1, and it's not that it's the best form of B1, it's just that it's the best fat-soluble version. And for some people, water-soluble thiamine is less effective at correcting a beriberi-like situation, and benfotiamine in many cases can work better. Let's see here. Why did God create grains? I don't know. I'm not God, so I certainly can't answer that question, but I can quote Mikhail a section, I can paraphrase a section of Genesis where God kicks Adam and Eve out of the Garden of Eden and says that you shall toil in the fields, and by the sweat of your brow, brambles and thorns shall punish you. Again, I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember the exact phrase, but to me, I'm a pastor, and so part of my background is understanding the Bible, but that can be taken in a lot of different ways. To me, one of the ways is that part of the punishment of humanity is the consumption of grain, the toiling in the fields, and the hard and heavy labor and the work that has to come to grow a food that slowly can deteriorate your health. But I would also say that, if we're talking in a non-biblical sense, it's not necessarily what God even made, it's what man has done to it after the fact. So man has created nitrogen-based fertilizers that increase the gluten content of grains. We've hybridized grains to contain greater degrees of gluten. We've loaded them up with pesticides and other chemicals. We've stored them improperly where they can grow molds and fungus and mycotoxins that can poison us. So I think there are a lot of aspects to grain beyond just the gluten in that can become damaging, even though it's a product that God created. God also created plutonium, which is radioactive and can kill us. So I mean, there are a lot of ways that we could look at it. These are all great questions to ponder. I wish I could give you an exact answer. I just can't. Would Virid help with shingles? So Gene's asking about one of my formulas. It's an immune support formula for people that have viral exposures. Yes, that's actually why we originally designed it, was to support people going through a chicken pox or a shingle issue. I like that. Russ is smart. He says, inflation is taxation without representation. No doubt, my man, you are right on. Pam says, my feet and lower legs sometimes feel cold and take a long time to feel warmed up. I can feel the feet with my hand and find they are not cold. It seems more like this is in my brain instead of low circulation. Is this a nutrient deficiency? Yeah, it could be. You could be having a neuropathy where you have problems with sensation, Pam, and so that oftentimes like that can be a B vitamin deficiency. So you might want to get that checked out. I like what Mark says. It says, at first God thought wasps would pollinate the flowers, but then he went with plan B. Good pun. Let's see here. Anything that can help with night sweats during menopause? Several things. Vitex agonist castus, chase tree can be helpful for some women. Progesterone creams, yam-based progesterone creams can be very helpful. Inositol can sometimes be very helpful. DIM, the supplement DIM. We have something called Ultra DIM. It can also be very helpful. Just a lot of things there that could potentially be good. Let's see here. Are almonds high in oxalates? Mine are quite high. Your oxalate levels are high, not your almond levels, right, Deborah? So if your oxalate levels are high, yes, almonds are a higher oxalate containing food. So if you struggle with with high oxalates or recurring kidney stones, calcium oxalate stones, then using massive quantities of almond flour might not be the best move for you. Go back up just a little bit. So let's see, Bhupinder, how can I get a genetic test kit for gluten sensitivity? Let's put that link up for Bhupinder. You just order it through Gluten-Free Society. We offer direct testing without doctors because so many doctors won't do the testing. So that's one of the things that we have had accomplished over the past few years. So you can order that straight through Gluten-Free Society. There's a link right at the top of the page that says genetic testing. Let's see here. Go back up just a hair on that. There we go. So Marie says, I made the pumpkin pie recipe with the warrior bread, made the crust thin, and came out yummy. I like that. So thanks for the feedback, Marie. So those of you thinking about a pie crust, there you go. There's an option. So why does there have to be sugar in everything? Good question. You know, sugar is an addictive drug, and more than it is any kind of food. And I think the reason manufacturers put it in the food is to make people want to buy more of it. It creates an addiction. In most cases, sugar feeds a lot of things, and one of the things it feeds is yeast. And so yeast, you know, they take on a life of their own. They can actually send messages to your brain through your vagus nerve to tell you to crave more sugar. And so sugar is just, to me, it's just it's something that if you've got processed sugar in a food item, you should be avoiding it. It's just not good for you. Don't kid yourself. Where can we get an affordable microbiome test? Right now, I would just say avoid any of these. These online microbiome tests they're junk. It's bunk, in my opinion. I get a lot of people that bring those to me in my office, and they offer up very little solution and very viable information that could help you manipulate or change your diet to any great degree where you would have any kind of improvement. I'm not a fan of these tests at all. There are a lot of docs online that are pushing these tests. You know, I just don't agree. I've just seen those tests fail time and time again. We've actually sent out blinded samples of the same person's sample, different names. And we get these tests back and they're very different. They don't yield a consistent result on the same sample. And so if it can't give you consistent accuracy, how can you trust it to make any decisions about your diet or lifestyle? Okay. What do you feed your poultry? So my poultry, we feed them an organic soy and corn-free mix. Remember, chickens. This is an area of confusion that a lot of people are stuck in. Chickens eat grain. Birds can eat grain. They eat seeds. Their GI tracts can handle it. They can process it. They can digest it. But they don't just eat grain. So you want to have a variety for your birds, in my opinion. And so for our chickens, we do supplement with organic corn and soy-free some grains, but we also feed them mealworms. They graze all day long. So they're out on pasture all day long. And so just depending on where you live, you might supplementally feed them more in winter months versus summer months. I'm in South Texas, so we have grass all year round, so we don't have to use heavy feed for them. But you can also feed them flax and other seeds, so chickens can do well with a lot of different things. But in my opinion, it's more important that they graze to get the vast majority of their daily diet. Best sugar substitutes: maple, honey, manuka honey, stevia if your gut tolerates it well, monk fruit if your gut tolerates it well. A lot of different options there. Xylitol, birchwood xylitol if your gut tolerates it well. All good sugar substitutes. How much coffee is too much? Depends on the person. My advice is don't drink more than a cup a day. That's 120 milligrams of caffeine, generally speaking. It's a diuretic. It will deplete you of minerals. It will deplete you of B vitamins. It's not that coffee is necessarily bad or evil. It's just that you just like all things in moderation for the most part. But most people overdo it. They do the whole pitcher. I asked a patient one time. She says, "I only drink 1 cup a day." I said, how big's the cup? And she's like, holding her hands out like this, right? So she's drinking 72-ounce stop and go mug that she refills. That's not a cup. That's like 8 cups. So be realistic when you're measuring. A cup is, generally speaking, is 6 ounces if you're talking about a cup of coffee. My husband drinks coffee. I know there are mycotoxins in grocery store bought coffee. Are there mycotoxins in organic beans too? Yes. And so this is why when you pick a company that is selling you coffee, you not only want that coffee to be organic, but you want them to have a track record where they actually measure for mycotoxins. Robbie, we list 2 different brands on our website at Gluten-Free Society. Both those companies do a great job. Of testing for mycotoxins, and that's why we recommend those brands. Okay, they should, or you, okay. Yeah, Christina's commenting, our food today is not what it was years ago. It's not, the testing, especially on nutrient density, the nutrient density on a lot of our food is lower than what it was years ago, so no doubt about that. Food just isn't what it used to be. Let's see. I think we covered. This has got to be a first. I think we hit pretty much all the questions that at least that I saw go through there. Maybe we'll scroll back through. So we need to pick a winner for our competition as well. I'm actually going to let my team do that. I don't want to pick that winner and be biased. So Mel, I'll let you pick the winner. You guys don't ever get to see Mel, but Mel's the guy. He makes all the magic happen on the back end. So you maybe to show him some love tonight, give him some thumbs ups or hearts. He's the guy that has the different camera angles and makes things look so good for us. So Mel and Bobby on the backside, who does all these wonderful graphics for our slideshows for you, are part of our team. So props to these guys. So let's see.
Mia Borsuk on Facebook.
So we got the winner of our Gluten-Free Warrior shirt is Mia Borsuk. So Mia, if you're listening, reach out to Jessica at glutenology@gmail.com, glutenology@gmail.com, and give her your information. Give her your information, and we're going to get you sized up for a shirt and get you set up for the holidays so you can approach and get there and be a warrior through the holidays. So, all right. So I think that's a wrap for tonight. I think I'm going to go home and eat dinner. It's been a long day. I really appreciate you guys always spending Monday nights with me. I love your interaction. Love you all. Wish you a fantastic Thanksgiving. Keep your head and your wits about you. We live in a strange time. We live in a time where food is poison and poison is food. And we live in a time where up and down is up, and sickness is health and health is sickness, right? So keep your head about you, keep your wits about you. If you ever doubt the sanity of the world, don't hesitate to come back and visit me on Monday nights for your extra good dose of sanity. And remember, if you're not subscribed, get subscribed. We're actually getting ready to change platforms. We're going to be hosting, and we're going to be only answering questions and answers on our own platform. So we're moving away from censorship. You'll still be able to watch our archives on YouTube, on Facebook, as long as they don't cancel me, but we don't know when that's going to happen. We can't control what they do, but we can control what we do at our own house. So go to glutenfreesociety.org. Make sure you sign up for my newsletter if you don't want my information censored from your inbox. Get on that list so that we can send you the correct links in the future as we move our platform over to Gluten-Free Society, where we can interact and we can communicate without the fear of reciprocity, of punishment for speaking truth. And so if you want to really hear Dr. Osborne raw, unfiltered, you're going to want to make sure that you come join me on that platform, which that's going to be coming to you as well in 2022. So love you guys. Happy Thanksgiving. We'll see you next Monday. One more thing. So Mel's saying we got a Black Friday sale. So those of you who use our products, love our products, we appreciate your business. We appreciate all you do for us to help us grow. We're going to throw up a banner real quick. We're going to put that up on the screen for you. We got a major sale. It's one of our biggest sales of the year, 20% off everything in our supplement store. So if you've been debating on buying and you looking for the right coupon code, now's the time to do it. You won't get a better deal than our Black Friday Cyber Monday sale. Again, it's our fourth biggest sale of the year. And so take advantage of it. Love you guys, and happy Thanksgiving. Take care.